will begin the 9th lecture on Hebrew. We studied the different forms of the Hebrew kal verb in our last lecture. First, we learned that there are finite forms and non-finite forms of verbs. Finite forms include indicatives and imperatives. Indicatives consist of the perfect form and the imperfect form. Imperatives include gentle commands and polite commands in the second and third persons. There is also the first person polite command. There is also the second person strong command. These are all finite verbs. This is a way to clearly identify the person, gender, and number. Next, the non-finite forms. There are participles. Second, there are infinitives. Participles are separated into the active participle and the passive participle. Infinitives consist of the absolute state and the construct state. These are all forms of the kal verb. In our last lecture, we learned that there are verbs of derived forms that come from basic forms. The kal verb applies to simple and active forms. It can also have a passive voice. A simple passive voice. We call this the nifal stem in Hebrew. The simple active voice can be intensified. When the simple active voice is intensified, its form has an intensive active voice. We call this the pel stem in Hebrew. The intensive active voice can be passive. The simple passive can be intensified. This is called the intensive passive voice. This is called the pual stem in Hebrew grammar. The intensified action can influence the subject of the action. We call this the intensive reflexive. This is called the Hifpael stem in Hebrew. The Hifpael. One can also make a third party perform an action. This is causative, and there can be a causative active voice and a causative passive voice. The latter is called the Hifpael stem in Hebrew grammar. One can also make the third party encounter a specific action. This is called the Hofal stem in Hebrew. The Kal, the Nifal, the Piel, the Pual, the Hifpael, the Hifil, and the Hofal are found in Hebrew verbs. The Kal stem is called the simple stem, and the other stems are called derived stems. I am telling you this for a reason. The Hebrew Kal verb consists of finite forms and non-finite forms. There are also many forms within the finite and non-finite forms. These forms are found in the Nifal, the Piel, the Pual, the Hifpael, the Hifil, and the Hofal stems. Hence, we will study the verb forms that fall under each category from the Nifal to the Hofal. First, let's review the Kal verb. In the Kal verb, there is the perfect form that belongs to the finite form. Let's use the verb malak as an example. This is the third person masculine singular of the perfect form. If we want to change the person of this verb, we can add endings to the perfect form. I hope that you remember blank, a, ta, tu, ti, u, tem, ten, nu. blank a ta tu ti wu u tem ten nu. We used these to change the person. There is one more thing we must remember. There is a model we use to put vowels in. This is a. It is a model made of the long A and the short A sounds, which is made by kamets and patak. Let's review this. The square marks Hebrew consonants. We must remember this in order to find the perfect form of the kal verb. This can be inferred from kal, the name of the verb. This is originally kal of the verb meaning light, and it comes from the word kalal. The verb kal means light, swift, or simple. It is a kind of nickname. Its actual name is the kalal. Its nickname became more popular than its actual name. Therefore, it would be smart to know the kalal in order to know the model of the kal verb. Next, we will use the verb malak to find the imperfect form of the kal verb. The imperfect third-person masculine singular form of the kal verb is imlok. We will write yi, which is made up of yod and hirek, and we will put holem above the second consonant. This is the imperfect third-person masculine singular form of the kal verb. We can infer that the model is formed from the name Yiktor. The model will be formed once we take the vowels. E and O of Yiktor. Thus, yi and o are vowels used to make the model. We must remember the name Yiktor. The changes made to the person of the imperfect form of the cow verb are made by adding prefixes and suffixes. Therefore, we must remember e, t, 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 yi, alep, e, wu, ti, na, ti, wu, ti, na, ni. E, t, 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 yi, alep, e, wu, ti, na, ti, wu, ti, na, ni. Then imlok would change to become timlok. Timlok. Timlaki, emlok, imilku, timlokna, timlku, timlokna, nimlok. Next, the second person imperative. The second person imperative is an imperfect form with the prefix removed. In the case of malak, o and e are added. Holem and chere. Next, the passive participles are a and u. Maluk is made up of a and u. The infinitive absolute state is a and o, a and o. Hence, we would write a and o. When a and o are added to the consonant model, we will know that it is a cow infinitive absolute state. Lastly, the cow infinitive construct state is the imperfect form with the prefix removed. The verb malak would become maluk. We reviewed the different forms of the cow verb. Now let's look at other verbs that have been derived from the cow verb. Second, the nifal. This indicates a simple passive voice. This would be the passive voice of the cow verb. First, let's make the verb malak into a perfect form. The perfect form is nimlak. Ni was added to the verb malak, and hence the change in the vowel was made. Nimlak is the model used to change the cow verb malak into the nifal. This model can be found from the nifal, the name of the verb. Ni and a form the model of the nifal. We can come up with the model by memorizing this name. This is the third person masculine singular of the nifal verb. To change the person, we can add the endings of the perfect form blank, a, ta, t, t, u, tem, ten, nu. Hence, it would change to nimlak, nimlaka, nimlakta. Next, let's look at the imperfect form of the nifal verb. We will use malak as an example. The third person masculine singular imperfect form of malak is imalek. Yod and e are added to the verb malak. Patak became chere. Yod and ye were added, and patak became chere. In order to find the imperfect form of the nifal verb, we must use the name to identify the model. Yikater. The imperfect form of the cow verb was yiktor. The imperfect form of the nifal verb is yikater. We will find the vowels e, a, e. E, a, e. We can use the vowels in the name to find the model of the imperfect form of the nifal verb. Hence, in order to make the imperfect form of the nifal verb, we will add yod, a, e to the basic consonants. We do this to make the imperfect form of the nifal verb, which has a simple passive voice. If we want to change the person, we can add the prefixes and suffixes e, t, 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 yi, alep, e, wu, ti, na, ti, u, ti, na, and ni. Please memorize the prefixes and suffixes of the imperfect form. We must memorize them. Now, let's look at the imperative of the nifal verb. The imperative of the nifal verb stems from the imperfect form, just like the cow verb. Let's look at the imperfect third-person masculine singular form as an example. The third-person masculine singular of the verb malak is yimalek. The imperative changes the prefix yod to he. Hence, it would be himalek. There are no other changes except that yod changes to he. We can get the second person imperative by changing yod to he of the imperfect form. Next, let's look at the participle. The participle he has the same model as the perfect form. The verb malak would become nimlak in the perfect form. Patak of the short a would become kamets. This would be the active participle of the nifal verb. The passive participle does not have a form. We can get the infinitive absolute form from the nifal. We get this by changing patak to holem. When we get this from the imperfect form imalek, we would change yod to he and chere to holem. Next, the infinitive construct form. The infinitive construct is the same as the imperative. Therefore, it would be Himalek. We would always put a dagesh forte on the first consonant. We would put the dagesh forte on forms made from the imperfect form, and we would pronounce the consonant twice when reading the words. Hence, it would be Himmalek. Mem is written twice in the word. It is not Himalek, but Himmalek. These were the different forms of the Nifal verb that stemmed from the third person singular. Next, let's look at the PL verb. The perfect form and the imperfect form can be found through the name of the PL verb. We will use the verb malak as an example. From the name PL, we can use the vowels E and E as the model. E is hirek and E is chere. We would put the dagesh forte in the middle consonant of intensive forms of the PL, the pual, and the hifpael. When we read the word, we would read it as millek, not millek, but millek. Next, let's make the imperfect form. We can find the imperfect form from its name. The name of the imperfect form of the PL is Yekatel. We will find the vowels Ye, A, E in the name Yekatel. In Hebrew, they would be Yod, Shewa, Patak, Chere. Hence, Yemalek. Please memorize the name Yekatel. We found the perfect and imperfect forms using this method. We used blank a, ta, tu, ti, u, tem, ten, nu to find the perfect form of PL or Yekatel. We used yi, ti, yi, alep, yi, wu, ti, na ti, wu, ti, na, ni to find the imperfect form. We just needed to add the prefixes or both prefixes and suffixes. Please refer to the textbook to memorize the imperative participle and the infinitive, absolute, and construct forms of the PL verb. Next, let's look at the pual. The pual has a passive voice of the PL. Therefore, it would have an intensive passive voice. We will use the verb malak to identify the forms. We can find the perfect form through the name pual. We will find the vowels u and a in the name pual. With them, we can find the model to find the perfect form of the pual verb. U is kibbutz and a is patak. Therefore, the dagesh forte is added to add an additional consonant to the second consonant. Hence, it would be mul-lak. We can also make the imperfect form. The imperfect form can also be inferred from its name. The imperfect form of pual is yakutal. We can take ye, u, a from yakutal. This would be written in the following ways in Hebrew. Yod, Shewa, Kibbutz, Patak. Next, we would add the dagesh forte. Hence, it would be yemul-lak. We would use this method to gain the perfect form and the imperfect form, and then we would change the person. In order to do so, we will add prefixes to the perfect form and prefixes and or suffixes to the imperfect form. The pual verb also has participles and infinitive, absolute, and construct forms. Please refer to these and memorize them. Next, the hif pael. The hif pael is influenced by the actions of the PL verb. If we were to intensify the simple meaning of he killed, we would say he killed he brutally killed. If the meaning of the PL became the hifpael, it would be he brutally killed. This is the hifpael. The simple action was intensified by the adverb brutally. The action influenced the subject, and we call this the hifpael. Let's see how the cow became the PL and how the PL became the hifpael. We will use the verb malak to find the perfect and imperfect forms of the hifpael. The third person masculine singular cow verb of malak. We can find the third person masculine singular of the hifpael with its name. Hit, a, e provide the model of the hifpael perfect form. A and e will be patak and chere respectively. Because this is also an intensive form, we will add the dagesh forte. Hence, it would be hit mal lek. We can find the imperfect form of the hifpael from its name. Yitpael. Or yitkater. We will use yitkater because we used the verb katal kill. We can then make the model with it, a, e. In other words, we changed he to yod of the hifpael. We can change the person by adding prefixes and suffixes to both the perfect and imperfect forms. Please take the time to memorize the participle, infinitive, and imperative forms. Next, the hifpil. The hifpil has a causative active voice. We can use the name of the hifpil to find the hifpil form of the verb malak. First, he and e. He would be he and hirek. E would be hirek yod, which is hirek and yod. we will not add the dagesh forte to the second consonant. It would be himlik. We can also make the imperfect form. The imperfect form of the hifil would be yaktil. We found ya and e here. Ya would be yod, patah. E would be chihirek, yod. Hence it would be yamlik. In this way, we can find the perfect and imperfect forms of the hifil verb, and we can add prefixes and suffixes to change the person. Lastly, let's look at the hofal. The hofal is a passive voice of the hifil, and it has a causative passive voice. We will use the verb malak to find the perfect form of the hofal verb. We will get ho and a from hofal. We can find the model of the perfect form of the hofal verb. Ho is he and kametz. However, this is not kametz. Please remember that when we studied vowels, kametz was different. When it is a closed syllable, it does not have an accent and makes the O sound. It is a closed syllable that does not have an accent. A is written as patak, homlak, omlak. Let's make the imperfect form of the hofal. The imperfect form of the hofal is hoktal. We will get ho and a from here. I'm sorry, let's revise this. It is yoktal. It would be pronounced yod and o, and patak is added so that it is yomlak. We looked at the different forms of Hebrew verbs. We studied the different verb forms that stemmed from the cow. With this, we will conclude the 9th lecture on Hebrew. Thank you.